What's a red flag that you ignored in a significant other, only to realize it was a bigger deal later? Wife had chest pains. She told me she'd always had them due to a heart condition she was born with. Always said it was nothing to worry about. Looking back, I should have worried more. She passed away in the middle of the night while sleeping. Her heart had stopped. It's been almost 3 years. I miss her. I'm so sorry for your loss. Biggest red flag? When we were newlyweds, he came home one day and informed me he had joined the military. We had talked about it the way people talk about maybe going skydiving someday. That's a decision you should make together if you're married. It impacted my life quite a bit and I spent over 8 years of a 12-year marriage on my own between tours, trips to train, a year bachelor billet, and then all the fun times he got to have with his military friends while I stayed home because someone needed to watch the baby. I used to think it was generous and kind how he would sacrifice things to help others, until I realized that he always put everyone and everything before our relationship. For example, I've had to drive myself to the emergency room because he had already made social plans and it would be rude for us both to cancel. I always had to quit my jobs and hobbies because if I wanted to see him, it had to be around his jobs and his hobbies. And his hobbies were always very expensive for the short time they held his interest. He couldn't try something new unless he was fully kitted out. Snowboarding was probably the most expensive and shortest. I think what really made me realize how crazy this relationship had become was when I was over the moon that he walked slowly enough for me to keep up on crutches because he had planned for us to go hiking. I went hiking on crutches with a sprained knee because I didn't want to watch him sulk if we couldn't do what he wanted to do. I ended up making my injury much worse because the crutches were too difficult to use on the muddy parts of the trail, and when we were going back downhill, I realized how pathetic I sounded as I gushed to my friends, whom he barely knows because they aren't as cool as his military buddies. It was so sweet. He slowed down so I could keep up. I mean, I have 8 weeks of physical therapy now, but he got me ice when we got back and let me take a nap. Yep, that's when I realized it was way past time to GTFO. Dang, this one hurts. Please tell me things got better or you were able to get out of this relationship. I've cheated on everyone I've ever been with, but I won't cheat on you. You're different. Surprise, she cheated on me. Unreliability. Always had an excuse for everything, and never liked being held accountable. I tried being understanding and forgiving, thinking I was taking the high road. It increasingly frustrated me until I stopped believing her when she gave her word. It was downhill from there. Trust is a core pillar of any relationship, and if I could go back in time, I would simply tell myself to never compromise on that belief. He would go on these weird rants about how controlling and unreasonable my parents were for giving me a curfew, wanting to meet him, making sure I had food and money. You know, being parents cause I was 17 at the time and still in school. Guess who turned out to be completely controlling and unreasonable? Projection is often a huge red flag. For the first 2 months we dated, anytime I suggested going to his place instead of mine, there was always some reason why he couldn't do it. Eventually discovered that he was a hoarder. I had a similar experience with a woman turned out to be married. That little details and stories didn't always add up. Any single one could be easily dismissed or laughed off, but they kept coming, and kept getting harder to ignore. Turned out she was a compulsive liar. I hope she's better now. I'm pretty sure the cause of this was being molested by her father, something I later surmised by adding up a bunch of clues, and desperately needing to fabricate her own reality. Yeah, once you've told all your friends that your parents are never home because they work hard, rather than that they are at home drunk, eventually you kind of sink or swim with the lies. The ones that swim never seem to want to come back to shore. He worked as a dispatcher at a police station. Never saw a problem with breaking small laws like speeding because he knew the officers. Years later he is in federal prison because he knew people and didn't think he'd get in trouble. His toxic mother. If I had the chance to do it all again, I still would. He is a wonderful husband and father, but I would drastically lower my expectations of his mother from the onset. We had a summer job painting and repairing dorm rooms. While we worked, one of us would start singing a song. If he picked the song, we would sing it together. If I picked the song, He would sing a different one on top of me until I switched to his song. This was a perfect metaphor for our entire relationship. That's actually sad. Instant gratification that was never enough. A whole relationship of, I need this, I really need this, and as soon as she had it, I bought it. She discarded it and moved on to something else shiny she really needed. I'd rather be shiny. She had a boyfriend when we started dating. Was not aware of this fact, but when I found out I told her to choose him or me. She broke up with him and started dating me. I learned pretty quickly that if a girl cheats with you, she will cheat on you. Yup, like the old saying, if that's how you get them, that's how you lose them. What I thought was low emotional intelligence and lack of introspection turned out to be a complete lack of empathy and full-fledged covert narcissism. Came to a head when I found out he'd been having sexually explicit conversations online with women. He said it was no big deal, didn't have anything to apologize for because why would anyone get upset about that, and was utterly incapable of recognizing that what he thinks and feels may, perhaps, be different than what I think and feel. Mine once said I always come home to you, as if that made it okay for him to sleep around. We were married. So one day I finally left and he no longer had anyone to come home to. Started with him not liking one of my friends. Then it moved to hating all my friends. Then it moved to hating my brother and parents. Then it went even further and transformed into wanting to get me away from them as soon as he absolutely. He even told me once or twice that he'd kidnap me if he had to. Isolation is a pretty good indicator he's going to be abusive. After asking my then girlfriend to only use the long distance on the phone at certain times due to the hellish rates at the time, this was before free long distance, she still ran up a 600.00 phone bill and got mad at me when I couldn't pay it. I didn't see how selfish it was then. I just thought she must really miss her family cause she did move to another state with me. I married her, and things honestly just got worse. But anyway. Just that we wanted different things in life. She wanted to move to NYC and I wanted to stay in our sleepy college town near the mountains and the ocean. I think we both thought the other would change their mind, but it didn't happen. Those sort of things tend to change with people over time. 5 years ago I wanted to live right in the middle of a city in a fancy condo 100 feet above the ground. Now the sleepy college town by the sea and mountains is where I want to be, and I feel more confident that will be my long life-term desire. I didn't have that confident long-term feeling back when I desired the city. Him and I didn't have too many plans. Just I would go hang out with him for the day. It was normal. He got a call from one of his boys to go play some basketball. Which is fine emo. We didn't have too much going on that day and I didn't want a Yoko. I was his only ride there and back. I'm okay with this. I told him I would sunbathe and read a book while they played. He can have his boy time. He knows I love my books. I got totally engrossed with the book while they were playing. It had only been an hour and he comes up to me and says I need to take him home. Okay, NP. I noticed he was upset but thought it was something due to friends. I was surprised that he left so soon. Nope. Seeing me on the grass and enjoying it made him jealous. The book was more important than him. I was so confused. I mean, you can have your girl time and your boy time, but when both of them kinda collide, would this be the best scenario? That she didn't clean up after herself. I didn't realize this would be a lifelong annoyance, but my wife literally won't clean. She is 100% content sitting on the couch watching her shows while I clean. She hasn't washed a dish since 2011. She was always angry about something. I loved being the person to hear her out and take her side, but soon enough, I was always the person that made her angry. Yup, in my case, angry and violent. I thought I was contributing to the relationship by quickly forgetting. In fact, I was failing to defend the most basic of boundaries and perpetuating the behavior. Wish I had good news. We're still married, trying to launch our poor damaged children. Think long and hard about who you pair up with, kids. He was very proud about how good he was at manipulating people and causing them problems, up to and including costing one person her job, justified in that he only did it to bad people who deserved it. The problem was, it was people he determined to be deserving. Classic NPD. Been there fam. The creepiest part to me is how they tell you so proudly like they want praise for using someone. She said Rihanna incited Chris Brown. It was a red flag. She had a severe case of battered woman syndrome, and when we got in fights she would taunt me that a real man would slap her for mouthing off. I've actually had somebody I used to be involved with tell me she was proud of her bruises in regards to her latest guy. It's not an easy thing to hear. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a big deal now, but it has definitely made us reconsider our ways. I'm somewhat sloppy slob. Why? Typical bachelor things. Leave socks in the living room. Dishes pile up for 2-3 days. My wife never made a big deal out of it. I thought it was awesome that she didn't nag like my mom used to. Turns out it's because she's even more messy than me. So we ended up living in a pigsty. The happy ending is that once we decided to grow up and make a chores list, we also tend to gain momentum once we start. It's just the getting started that's an issue we're working on. This one didn't make me sad for once, lol. He used to tell everyone he wanted to join the military so he could kill people. Good lord. Not a significant other, but probably one of the best friends I have ever had. Dude was the happiest and funniest guy you have ever met. Crack the best of the best jokes on the shortest of lines. Dude knew how to enjoy himself wherever he was. After the suicide we realized we never saw him without a bottle in his hand. We realized way too late that he was suffering from his time in Iraq and was too proud to say it. I wasn't the type that she normally went for. She preferred tall, white, lanky guys with blonde curly hair. I'm shortish, mixed blood brown, more stocky than lanky, and have dark wavy hair. She continued to fawn over these preferred guys even when we were together for years. Also, we had hobbies that didn't really overlap. I supported her in her things, but she seemed indifferent to my things. Turns out that she never really wanted me for me. I was an convenient escape from her family life. When I gave her that escape in the form of moving with her 200 miles away from them, she no longer needed me. She no longer needed what I represented because her family wasn't there to give her heck every day anymore. She pulled away slowly more and more while I was left trying to figure out what was wrong. By this point we were together for 7 years and in the middle of planning a wedding. She started cheating on me with, who else, but a guy's fit her preferences exactly. Also this guy was 8 years older, unemployed, no degree, no job training, and married. She knew that he was married. He knew that she was engaged. They knowingly were cheating together. She only fessed up after I caught them together. 7 years of my life, stolen. I hate reading crap like this, as my girl has a strong preference for slim brown guys and I'm a white guy who's built somewhat like a refrigerator. He was dating someone else when he started dating me. Instead of dealing with it, he told her where I lived and she showed up at my place. Our chat. So you're dating Kevin? Yeah. Okay, guess I'm not anymore. Good luck with him. Okay, I must first defend us by saying we were teenagers, and then clarify that yes, he did cheat on me eventually. I also did not know he was dating her until she showed up at my house. Also, cell phone social media weren't a thing yet. There were worse things that happened in our relationship, but the whole cheating thing fits with a clear red flag I ignored. Freaking Kevin. I mean, sure, she has a boyfriend and probably shouldn't be flirting with me so hard, but you know, that dude treats her like crap and doesn't realize how lucky he is to have her. I bet you can't guess how that relationship ended 4 years later. We had mismatched libidos from the start. I convinced myself things would get better when we were married. I chalked it up to Catholic guilt. He actually became completely disinterested in sex after we got married. He had brushed me off several times while we were dating. He even went so far as to throw me out of the bed once and tell me to take care of it myself on more than one occasion. The signs were all there. I just ignored it. Take care of yourself. You too. Bye. She had a best friend who was a dude that was clearly in love with her. They had known each other for less than a year, and she had slept with him once prior to dating me in a moment of weakness. She never let me meet him. He would not acknowledge my existence to her, nor would he acknowledge that she was in a relationship at all. Texted each other non-stop. I bent over backwards trying to accommodate this guy and give her the benefit of the doubt. We break up for different reasons after about 4 months. The first person she sleeps with days after our breakup, you guessed it, The best friend. A few months later she contacted me hoping to give our relationship another go. I guess the best friend thing didn't work out. I told her I was not interested. Well done, bro. She told me in passing that she accidentally burned half of her ex's kitchen while she was cooking. Didn't think anything of it until I came home to half of my wardrobe on fire in the backyard. Looking back, I probably should have seen that coming. I think you're being too hard on yourself. She was just trying to send you smoke signals. Her habitual abuse of my wallet. She'd come to me for little things at first, like her rent being due and she needed 10 or 20 to make it through the week. Some small cash for groceries or bus fare to school or an appointment. This would go from once a month to in the end multiple times a week. She'd always tell some sob story till I gave in. Later found out she always had the money. In fact, she had plenty in the bank. She just didn't want to spend her cause she was saving up for a wild party vacation with her, as it turned out not so gay, male friend. I guess I must have really took to heart the moral of every fairy tale about how ultimately the best people are being poor and humble. So when I was a teenager and very young adult, I just didn't care if a guy was between jobs or had no career goals or whatever. Guess what, ladies? That's how you wind up dating guys who you wind up supporting while they sit on the couch and make messes they expect you to clean up. A scrub is a guy that can get no love from me. My ex-boyfriend, when I was 13, so not really much of a boyfriend, picked me up and threatened to throw me in a snowbank if I didn't make out with him. I was scared, so I did it, but it got way worse later on. He ended up covering my mouth and putting a knife to my throat because I wouldn't have sex with him. But he's long gone out of my life now. I grew up realizing I dodged a bullet. Okay, what the frick? He hated when I wore low-cut shirts because that meant people saw some cleavage. He literally took me to the mall to buy me a belt because he was scared my pants would fall down and people might see something. He got pee the first time he saw me wear a skirt and tried to make me feel bad for choosing it, because he didn't think I'd be careful enough to keep my legs closed and people might see up my skirt. I should have freaking ran way earlier than I did. Controlling behavior doesn't stop over time, it just gets worse. He hated his parents. This red flag is actually more of a grey flag based on a person's reasons for said hatred. In my case, my ex hated his parents for stifling him, even though he lived off of them and relied on them to cater to his every whim. I thought it was so inspirational that he wasn't someone who could be controlled, but later it spiraled into him turning that anger towards me. It did not end well. There's a certain kind of resentment that seems to come from dependency. My ex was like that too. Of course, he came to depend on me as a sort of replacement mom, so that didn't end well on a couple of fronts. I was 16, he was 24. My daughter is now 15, and if she came home next year with a 24-year-old, I will freak TF out. At 16 you're still a child, and any 24 years old should know that. The heck of being 16 is you think you know everything, but man, when you look back, you knew nothing, and the fact that there are adults who would take advantage of that is terrifying. He knew my favorite animals were bees. If we ever got in a fight, he'd catch a bee, hold it by the wings, stick a toothpick into its stomach, and then hold it over a candle as he recorded it struggling. He'd send me new videos after every fight until I just let him walk over me so he wouldn't hurt any more bees. Soon enough, it wasn't the bees I was worried he would kill. If someone is that willing to kill an innocent creature in such a horrible way just to upset you, odds are they won't hesitate to hurt you too. I learned this the hard way. Holy frick. Those poor bees. OMG. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.